This week on the No More Late Fees podcast, Jackie and I are joined by actor, singer, and writer Renoly Santiago. You probably remember Renoly from his roles in movies like Hackers, Dangerous Minds, Con Air, and Punks. We're so excited to have him on our show. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
So, obviously, we were excited because we just did Hackers on our podcast, and it is a blast from the past. It is the clothes, the styles, and it just felt like all of you guys just felt so natural. Obviously you were acting, but it felt like you guys were really friends. It felt like you had this camaraderie. How was that whole process? I heard that you guys took a few weeks before starting production to get to know each other.
Yeah, well, it was really awesome. And it's funny, that part was just to learn rollerblading and to learn some basics on laptops and stuff like that. But it's always nice to hear that because it really was the acting. I mean, even though we were friendly with each other right away, but it was more laid back still when you're meeting people. It's not like you're like, hey, let's go. What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like how we are now. You know what I mean? More laid back and calm and quiet. And then when you go to rehearse, let's do the scene. So it was like, but even then, we only did one scene in those two because it was a 2-week rehearsal period, but it was a training period. Again, it was more for learning how to rollerblade, which we would have like a training session schedule where it was like 10 a.m. to like 1 p.m. with the rollerblading guy teaching us how to like go up and down the highway, the West Side Highway. And then from like 2 to 3 doing computer class or something. So that's what really went on in those 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then we only did one scene for the director the very first day, I want to say, that we officially started work training that day. And so he was a little shy. This is in retrospect, and I only say for the audience to know how filmmaking usually works out and stuff. He was a little shy to ask because, again, in tradition in film, you do the filming, don't rehearse. So, but he said, can I hear a scene aloud, whatever? And the cute story with that is, I don't remember what scene it was, but it was a scene with all of us involved. And it was just a 2 or 3 second moment of chemistry. It was very fast. And then we were all quiet. And I remember there was a door that led out to a fire escape. And we all just kind of sat there for a moment. And I remember Angelina was quiet also. And then she all of a sudden said, it's going to be good. And everybody was like, yeah, it's going to be good. Da, da, da. Yeah. And so that was like, that's like the one rehearsal that we had, those moments. And so it was good that, yeah, we all felt chemistry there too. But that's really what happened. And everything else happened right there for the audience with the filming going on.
And did you ever imagine that the internet would get to a place where it is now when you were doing this movie? Or did it just feel like this kind of outside thing that we're just this group of people kind of having that touchstone to it?
Yeah, there was a sense that something was ahead in that direction, that the shift was going to happen. But it wasn't happening yet when we made the movie. So that was really cool to have, because they did mention a few times, like in the costume department and more, I think there once or twice I heard the phrase, yeah, because in the future we want to try to get that somehow. And so I thought, wow, that's a really cool task and undertaking to like try to project what might be what people are doing. And so, and when those things, you never want to jinx anything. So I never said anything about it after. They were just trying to do their task, and I was just there to play along. But I'm so happy for them because that was what they wanted to do. So I'm glad that they got that vibe and those kinds of things.
I'm glad you brought up the fashion. Did you have any input in your wardrobe? Because it was fabulous. Like that kitty cat t-shirt.
Loved it.
Like all day, every day.
Oh my goodness. That was funny enough. None of us had any input on the clothes or hair. We all kind of knew our lane, which was a very cool thing. And that was what went on from the very first day. Like there was nothing pushed, nothing, whatever. We were there for work and of course excited and all that, but just more what I did notice in the other cast and, like, let's say actors, right, was that we all were very driven as artists and professionals, and we all sunk our teeth really into it. Like, and I could see even Jesse Bradford, who was 16 at the time, he tickled me inside in such a loving way, because I was like, look at this young man, like he's such a young intellectual, like he is really going into this, because he's nothing like, he's smart, much smarter than, or not, Joey's very smart in the film, but he is more socially confident, Jesse was, as a person, than Joey. So it was so cool that he could let himself go like that and make himself be an outsider with that way he was. And so it was all so cool. And that's one of the things that I noticed about everyone. And so that's what we did. And then the fashion really was, so it was a dream come true in that aspect for me, because I do love fashion. And so people tend to think that maybe looking at my pages and things that I had anything to do. It was just the universe, and it was like, yay, because I was like, oh wow, yeah, because I had been a fan of films like Blade Runner, and and even like what was that film with Nicolas Cage, like Valley Girl. It came to mind, like the way Nicolas Cage was dressed in that. And that was another thing that was odd to do Con Air with him late in life after that, because I was like 11 years old when those. So when that happened, I thought of those films, and I was like, oh, it's so cool. Like, and so, for instance, the initial plan, I used to wear my hair in a ponytail a lot then. Like the hair I had in Dangerous Minds, right?
Yeah.
That I did create for Dangerous Minds, but that was kind of like how I was rolling along. And so I remember in the hair meeting, they said, "All right," because they showed me. They were all funny about how they would show us the first, what this is what it's going to be kind of thing, because they seemed respectful and sweet enough to think like if we hated it, they were like a little afraid. They were like, okay, this is what we have in mind. You know what I mean? And we would all be like, great, okay, yeah. And they'd be like, oh, okay. Because they were also European. I remember the costume designer, he was from England. And then the other ladies that were hair and kind of costume, they were like either French European or something. Or so they were like very like, they didn't know they were being too out there.
Yeah.
Yes. But they had done a lot of research, of course, and you can hear them talking about going to Tompkins Square Park in the Lower East Side and places that they would get inspiration. But that was how that happened. And then so the initial plan when they asked me, so they said, can we see your hair down? And so I said, sure. And then when I took it out, they were like, okay, leave. Because then they decided to leave it. I was like in my early 20s at the time. I was like, my hair's all crazy right now. What do you mean? You know what I mean? I was like, didn't know. I was like not trying to be either or about the hit, whatever what they wanted. I was okay. But the initial plan for Phantom Freak was because then in this first meeting I see, because that was not in the script, the way we would dress. There was only one reference to clothes, and that was in my character's description, that it said a dapperly dressed Latino, and that was just it. And then everything else, it seemed like a high school movie. So we didn't know, even in rollerblade rehearsal, what we were going to dress like. So I see all this leopard stuff for Phantom Freak, and I'm like all into it. Again, it was in my lane. At that time, I was wearing, which was different for then, but I was wearing camouflage. Like I remember I had a camouflage T-shirt that was black and white, and I had a green one too, and I would pair that up with shorts and combat boots or something. That was different for then, but the leopard was very retrospective for then, and I was happy because it was very feminine for then. And it was also prior to that, you would have seen it on Rod Stewart, honestly, or like Rick James or like Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And right. And I hadn't seen anything like that since. So I was like totally down with it. And then so what they were gonna do also was leopard print my hair. I was gonna have a Caesar haircut, and then they were gonna dye it. Yes. And so that was their call. They had a drawing of me and leopard in the outfits, but my hair was also leopard. And so when they asked me to take it down, it was their choice to leave it like that. And so that's how that happened. Yeah, but that was all pretty much.
That was a good choice.
Oh,
It looked great. If I think about the leopard, that would have been fun. But just having your hair and you had those natural, beautiful curls, it just worked.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I would have been okay with either way. And then the kitty cat shirt is really funny because that during that era, that was a popular T-shirt you would see. I had seen it many times in Times Square in a novelty shop. And so you would see it like where they sold like I Love New York mugs and stuff like that. And it was in the outside of on the window, and it was like on a mannequin torso. And nobody would buy that shirt at the time because especially since it was in that context at a novelty store. So when they pulled it out in costume, I thought, wow, that's so outside the box, and it fits, and it's so cool. And then, but I didn't know or expect what the reaction would be when it was on screen. And it did light up like it did at the novelty shop. And I didn't even know if it would show on screen that it was flashing when it was on. But I just went along with it, and I'm glad that showed up too.
Yeah. The movie has such longevity, and it's become a cult classic at this point. Generation after generation just keep finding it and falling in love with it. Did you get that feeling, or did you feel like, okay, this is a good movie, but you didn't envision that or not?
Yeah, what was really cool, and I like that I've been very fortunate in all the movies I've made that the future never comes up. Like the actors and the people creating it, we're really in the moment, and nobody like ever really says like, oh, this is going to be a hit, or wow, I bet they're really going to look at this in the future, or I bet this is going to like just come out and be gone, or like, I mean, like we were in it and we were living it, and then also doing it with love.
Yeah.
And for the best, yes, like you do with a child, you know what I mean? It was the same thing. It was like we all treated it like we loved it, and we cared for it with all our hearts, and then that was it, and it was.
And I think
done.
you can really feel that, and I think that's why it is a cult classic, is because y'all do such a beautiful job in it, and you take it seriously. And it could have been this kind of like cheesy like computer movie, but because you guys were so in it and the acting together, it just really resonated into this really wonderful movie that you want to be part of that group.
Yeah.
You're like, I can be a hacker.
You guys definitely grounded anything that seemed maybe a little bit outside of the realm of reality. Your acting really grounded it to bring it back. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I know we jumped right into hackers, but you started your career very early on. How did that evolution start? What did you catch the acting bug? Like, how did you get into your career?
Oh, thank you. And just a quick thing on hackers too, with you saying that, it's so nice because I think it's also nod to the director.
Yes.
Ian Softly. Yes, because he's the one that brought us together, that selected us, and it was his orchestration that, and yes, and in the music and bringing the team, selecting those type of costume designers and everything else. So just wanted to give him a mention and thank him on his behalf too. And yes, and then about my acting career, I started very early on out of just loving music and performance. As a little, when I was like 5 and 6 and 7, it was like I was that kid that would be like dancing in the circle. They would be like Michael Jackson playing, or Madonna, or Cyndi Lauper, whoever in my time, or that really funky 80s music. Oh my goodness, that was just going on. And so I love dancing, and I remember I even got like a little award, like when I was like 7 years old, a dancing award, and the song was Cars. I'm remembering now by, who was that? Rick Ocasek? I don't even know, but it was that jam, and it was a Farrah Fawcett poster, the one where she's in that classic poster. Yes,
the red tank top. Yeah,
right. And that was that era, and it was a current poster. Imagine, and that's in my mind. that, yeah. And so that was that. So that was always alive in me. And I loved singing. And then when I was like already 14 and 15, there was someone in my school that was in commercials, a really beautiful Colombian girl with a great heart. And her name is Gina Lopez. And she was in the television world, and I just befriended her, and I told her I really loved arts and performing, and we just became natural. And she lived ironically right around the block from me. And she started taking me to her school in Queens, New York. And the teacher, the woman there, she was a theater actress and Latina, and it also loved representing Latino kids in the entertainment world and commercials and theater stuff, whatever it would pop up. So that got me into the theater world and into the scene in New York. And so it started when I was like 13, 14. And I was really excited to be part of off-Broadway productions that were avant-garde stuff that was very innovative, and so it really formed maturity in me, a critical thinking, a socially aware kind of person. And then as I got deeper into the arts and it was a simultaneous passion that was inside me and also that was starting to happen, I just kept going with it. And then I got like managers that were more involved in film and television, and that just kind of happened through a reference meeting because I was just immersing myself in theater and performing. And then that's when I went for Dangerous Minds when I was 19, and that was my film debut, and that is what started it all. So there's a yes, and I mean, I started very early on in the sense of paying what they say, like paying dues in a way. So like, even though Dangerous Minds was my first film, there was a lot of preparation that happens as an actor before that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we definitely have to talk about your love of music. You're an accomplished singer, and I mean, you've recorded with Mark Anthony and Paul Simon and Daniel Rivera. I mean, the fact that you and Mark Anthony were both in Hackers together, that is just like worlds colliding, kismet kind of thing. Was it from that instance that you guys got to know each other for you to be able to sing together later, or?
Yes. Because even during the filming, he and I became very close friends, and we were best friends for a short period then, especially since, again, it was a professional kind of job situation. We were all staying in the same hotel and stuff, but Angelina and Johnny became a romantic pair, and they were always together. And I think Matthew had his girlfriend come out, and so he was really spending his time off with her. And so Mark Anthony and then Jesse was 16, so he was like studying or whatever anyway. And then Mark and I were like decided, and he was so adventurous. I'm so grateful that on top of who he is and all that wonderful stuff, but that just as a human being, that we were able to come into each other's lives and shared that. And he was so outgoing. I probably would have stayed near the hotel, believe it or not, just like hanging out, killing time. But he was like, let's go to the museum. Let's go to the movies. Let's go to a bar. Let's go here. So like, I'm glad that he was so outgoing, because it made me really enjoy London. We even had an instance once where like we went into one of those red light district strip teases. And we didn't even know what was going to go on. We were just like wandering, like, why not? Let's go in. Like, is someone dancing kind of at the window. So we got some drinks, and then they bring us the bill. Oh, and then a girl comes out and does a dance. We're alone in the place. She does this really like neo cool, like weird dance, and she's like got her head shaved like Sinead O'Connor. And then in the very end of the dance, she just takes her top off, and then she bends down and takes her bottom off and walks off. And we're like, we're just having. And then they bring the bill, and it was like $400.
Oh my!
And it was pounds, so it was like 800 American dollars probably, or something like that. And thank God I was with Mark, because he had enough money at the time anyway to handle it and not kill it. So he's like, we both take it just like kind of laugh, like, what? Oh, really? Like, he's like, but how did that? And she's like, well, that's what it is. And we're like, okay. And he's like, well, what, if people don't want to pay, what happens? And she's like, you see that guy over there at the door? And we're like, oh, okay. And so like Mark is like, don't worry. So he ends up paying the bill and we leave. But that was an experience we had. So it was really, really cool. Yeah. Yeah. And Mark referred me to when we finished the film. Sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead.
With that, but yes, Mark, we hung out and stayed in touch and stuff. And then he was like, "Listen, I'm working on this Broadway musical with Paul Simon, and you're like the same as that character. That because it tells me the story that there's this gang and that they bring his character into the gang for protection in Hell's Kitchen in the 1950s, and that it was based on a true story. It was very controversial, and lo and behold, I mean, he and I really did look and size-wise and everything like these two gentlemen that the piece was about. And he knew I was a singer. I had sung for him when we met and a little after we met, and he was very impressed. He was like, my goodness, he was like, you should be making records. Like, and so he introduced me to Paul Simon, and Paul Simon was again an amazing human being. We connected instantly. I mean, when you think of how magical, I mean, he just invited me to his apartment, his penthouse on Central Park West, and it was kind of surreal. I remember getting out of the elevator and him peeking out the door, like half of his face, and it's Paul Simon. He opens the door and come on in, and then it was, yeah. So Mark connected me with Paul Simon for that, and it was a big dream come true because I always wanted to be on Broadway anyway, and yeah, and that's how that happened.
That's amazing. So with your singing career, do you feel like you just don't have to choose, or is there one that really has your heart from an acting versus writing or singing?
Yeah, no, they really all mean a lot to me, and they're just all connected. I guess the place that I feel all of that comes together is in musicals. When you're in a musical theater piece, you are singing, dancing, and acting, and so it's like really utilizes your artistic self in that performance way. So when I think about like them individually, I kind of maybe go back to that. And so it's hard to break them apart. Yeah. Because, and especially since in musicals and stuff, the acting is treated with so much importance along with the singing and along with the dancing that you just neither one is more important than the other. Even if you're having actors that are not first singers, they bring out these incredible acting performances because of that, because it's treated equally. And that's like my home with it all. It really is. I just love it.
I'm curious. I just have to know what your favorite musicals are.
Oh, thanks. Well, my first and favorite tends to be Evita. And there was a time in elementary school where my routine, this is being a kid when you do things and you look back and you say, oh my God, that's so interesting. But my daily routine from like 3rd to 5th grade was I would, for lunch, with my friend Rosemary Rogers, we would go to her house. My mom gave me a $5 allowance, which was like so big that back then I would buy like my friend's lunch. I would buy like tuna fish and a tuna fish and Italian bread. And we would listen to Evita. And every day. So that, and what really blew my mind was Patti LuPone's voice first and foremost as a child. And the song, Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, and also numbers like Buenos Aires, which was so funky, and her rhythm, her phrasing in the number was just so impressive. And then there were things to always admire that, and I realized today on a deeper level, the prelude in the opening of the piece and the actual orchestrations and the song composition is amazing. And the quality of voices that our Andrew Lloyd Webber assembles in that original cast recording is still very top notch to this very day. So that's my first favorite. And then my other deep favorite is Hair. Yeah, I also listened to that a whole lot while I was growing up. And I listened to that one alone a lot. And I would just kind of absorb the energy behind the music and the singing and the message. At the time, I think I was responding to the socially conscious expression in the piece that really, yes, because I, for some reason, I'm also an activist, and I'm also a poet, and that went on early on as well. I, for some reason, stumbled upon some kind of strike protest. It wasn't a strike; it was a protest when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I got involved. And then there's a funny story. I'm in the paper. My first time in the newspaper was holding up a placard sign. You know what I mean? When I was like 8 years old. So, and that was my first fame. Like, Mustel's gotta go. And so, yeah. And then, so that got tied into my performing arts work. And that's why it really gives me a sense of truth and confidence in my acting. And that's what I think resonates with people too. And it went on deeply before Dangerous Minds. So when I got that role, I literally used it too as a platform too. And even like when Hackers happened, I recognized that it was showing Latino in a different light than what was being, and so, and then I always find an intention with the work that ties into the world, because it just so happens that the benefit of acting is reliant on in feeling things in common and that kind of thing. So Daylight with Sylvester Stallone, where I played a recovering drug addict, that was also informed by my real life observations and work. And Con Air, playing a transgender character, that was also very informed by my real life and the clubs that I went to and hung out with as a gay youth. And being that and breaking those boundaries alone in my feature film work all felt very activist, conscious, social change kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's really amazing that you were able to have those opportunities, and that you just found, even if it wasn't presented from the start, that you were able to figure out how to still bring those pieces of yourself into the characters. That's amazing. It's also,
thank you.
I also tip my hat off the fact that you were in the same room as Michelle Pfeiffer and didn't pass out, because I feel like I would. I love her so much. That was your first movie, and you're like on the set with all of these young actors and Michelle Pfeiffer. That's a big step.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. It really was. I do not take it for granted, and I am so grateful to have had that be my introduction into this work. And it's not always a lot of work always going on and roles, but I'm grateful that it's my starting point. And I still, when I do things, they always have a certain depth and quality to the productions, and it opened those doors. And then the other plight is just that there would be more diversity and inclusion in entertainment. And I also feel it's my responsibility to also like push that forward too. So I do that in writing, and I do that in my own verse that I try to push, because no matter what race you are, it's a very challenge. It's almost a miracle when you get to do something in this business. So that's part of it. But yeah, with Michelle, especially since I love that you said that, Danielle, because when we made the movie, sometimes people, when they talk about Dangerous Minds today, and even back then, it's a controversial film, because when it even came out, there was already response to her being white. Like, it's funny, sometimes people talk now and they say, oh, that movie would never get made, and oh, they didn't notice that she was, and it was like no, when the movie came out, there was huge criticism,
right?
And yeah, and the critics in these the most hoity-toity publications were like, Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't do those kinds of movies. And even when I would say, oh yeah, it's a film about Michelle Pfeiffer, wow, what's it about? Well, she plays a teacher. Oh, really? She never does that kind of stuff. And it was that kind of attitude too. So there was a little bit of racism in saying that she doesn't do that kind of, when again, we all know her too from Scarface and other, but yes, but she had become this elevated, like untouchable person. And she's a tough woman. She's a beautiful, graceful woman, but she was also known as an ice queen. And she's a tough chippy woman. She does not play, and she needs to get tough. She will. And so that was also, but all of those things, and including the entire young cast, we respected her for the same thing you're saying, Danielle. We liked her. And everybody, all the tough people in that cast that were selected, there was a nationwide casting. Most of us, like 90%, came from the West Coast and New York. And they were tough kids, and they were not actors. They were very natural, though, chosen for their talent, their spark, whatever you call it. But they were no nonsense. There were one or two times that fights almost erupted on the set because people were just, and they were flexing. They were very tough, some of them, wanting to show that they don't care where they are, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. See that in reality, you know how reality TV is, right? You know what I mean? And we see some of these, it was the same. Like some of them were like little Cardi B's and whatnot, you know what I mean, in there. But Michelle held her own in that way. So I just want to say in regard to that, there's always an exception in every situation, and because Michelle played it without race, and because her intention as a human being went beyond that, that's what makes the film still resonate today. And and there's always going to be that back and forth about the issue and the race, and so that is also interplayed in the film. That is the purpose. It's also a spark that's always going to be a point of discussion that will make it, because it's not pretty. And it is just a little bit of unfortunate that this woman ended up there and that she went in and she did that. And why aren't there enough teachers of color or enough pay or all of those things that come involved in that conversation? So it made it even wider. And so that's all I want to say about that, because it's interesting when people refer to it like it wasn't noticed, and it was. I mean, definitely.
That movie, I think people downplay even now the importance. I mean, because she was at that level, and because she's a blonde white woman who was deemed beautiful, and like you said, kind of, yes, maybe ice cream, but like from the perspective of everybody else, maybe soft. Her saying, yes, I'm going to do this movie was one, very important. And two, I think out of all of those kind of white teacher comes to a school where there are Black and brown people, it's usually like that white savior kind of situation in different movies. I feel like in that one, it doesn't play in that same way. You really do see her struggles. You see her confused as to the inequalities between what she was used to and what was going on at this school. And it's not like, I'm going to come save all these children because like I know better. You could tell that she really wanted to understand where these kids were coming from, understand their environment, and do her best. And I think, like, if I think about it, it's one of the rare movies where it has that same scenario, but it doesn't feel like white saviorism. So, yeah.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And in your part, you talking about your different roles, it was so important. Like, if you look at Hackers, it's funny now, we're still having those conversations about being able to have diverse casts, and we were able to have the diversity that you would see in New York, because it kills me when I see movies that are supposed to be placed in New York and it's just like all white, and it's just like, that is not what it looks like there. But being able to have that representation, just know that you have done so much for so many kids growing up to just see someone that looks like them and not be in a stereotypical role at that. Like, you open people's minds that they can be a little bit more open of like who they are. They don't have to fit in a box, which so much happens to minorities especially. So just really wanted to say thank you for that, because it's just beautiful to see.
Oh, thank you so much, Danielle and Jackie. I mean, yeah, I definitely even felt when it was happening that I was stepping into a situation that was groundbreaking for me and for the rest of the community and the world to gain more perspective. That was huge, yeah, because when I started this, there was nobody that looked like me out there, except I could look to like Lou Diamond Phillips, who had only done something like 10 years prior, and that I knew deep down was not Latino. So I still had that impression that they don't they don't feel the need to involve us. So then I would look prior to that and then thought, my goodness, then I thought maybe like Elijah, Esai Morales, or Jimmy Smith. But even then, they were not like me because they were fit, tall, handsome, dark, tall, handsome guy. And I am 5'4", and I am not straight. I didn't necessarily don't talk about. I don't think that matters, but it was a surprise. It was a blessing from God. It was an opening in the universe that I thought, holy moly, I'm playing. And it was because of my hard work and research, and really a lot of emotional stuff goes on with acting, that insecurities you face, and then wondering if you'll ever be good enough, or even if you have anything to offer. So it was crazy as a young gay kid who was considered effeminate to then become this tough, be able to be myself. It was a big thing as that LGBTQ community to be able to involve and immerse myself believably and still be who I was, because I was myself like I am now on the set and everywhere. So people would always be like, oh my, and then they would be like, wow, he's a real actor. Wow. Like, because I would change my voice and change little aspects of all of that. But that helped, like you say. So when it happened, I knew that this was a break from God and people too, that were enough changing enough to involve people like me in an opening. So yeah, I'm so grateful that I was able to be a part of that, and that I still feel like I'm a part of that today, and that we are seeing more and more. So yeah.
Do you go to any of the conventions now? I mean, there seems to be so many more popping up, especially like from the 90s. The old loving the 90s nostalgia right now. Have you done any conventions yet, or?
Yeah, I haven't done, like, you mean Comic-Con and different things like that?
There's just so many. There was 90s Con last year. That was the first year they had that one. So there's just different ones popping up, but yeah.
Yeah, I am looking more into getting involved in that more. When the pandemic happened, that's like when I was like having people approach me and get the ball rolling, and then it was that kind of through things. But I am into doing that, and I will eventually. Like whenever I get invited to something, I'm definitely open and out there to do it. And yeah.
Well, speaking of the pandemic, how did you keep your creative juices flowing? It was just such a very strenuous time for everybody, but I can imagine as a performer kind of just being stuck in the house, it kind of, I'm sure you had to find ways to keep your juices flowing.
Yes, it served my work in that way, because I was working on a musical that I was completing, and I was also working on a sequel to one of my films, which I probably shouldn't divulge yet, on my own. So I was like, oh my God, yeah, like thinking, so I really needed to be alone. I needed to like really, really, I did a lot of thinking during that period and creating. It was like, so it was used in a productive way. But it was hard. It was hard because I do live alone. I thank God I have 2 dogs and a cat. and I got the cat just last year. I was with my dogs most of the time. But that's what it was like. And I'm so grateful that we're all here and that we made it, because
absolutely.
Yeah, I think even for Jackie and I were just, I mean, we even started this podcast. We didn't do it in the heart, like the beginning of it, but we started watching movies and talking, and we're just like, how do we have something that brings us joy? Because, we're just trying to keep our spirits uplifted. And so we did the podcast. And the great thing is that it bonds us in our friendship, but it's been able to bring joy to other people. And it's really nice to hear like people bonding with us about the movies we talk about and liking our friendship. It's a little weird because we're not used to it, but it's been fantastic, and we've been able to meet people like you. So it's been a blessing in that spawned from a dark time, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, do you have any other projects that you're working on that you can or would like to shout out? We'd love for our audience to hear what you're up to, and also shout out your social pages so that they can follow you and keep up to date with everything.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, I do have some projects in the works that are feature films and television and theater. So I'm looking forward to getting those rolling this year. And the musical is called The Mystic.
Okay.
And yes, and I'm working with a composer on the music already. The book is written, and some other feature film stuff. And I'm excited. I've got also new acting representation and writing representation. So that's something, and I've never had that. It's hard to get representation for writing too. And so I'm excited to see where that goes. And it's the beginning of the year, so we'll see what productions and auditions come along. And I'm excited. I'm very excited. And I'm also recording music too. I got some music coming. So it's a lot of plans in the air.
Well, that is so exciting. One, you have to, when the musical is ready to go, let us know. We will go to New York. We will go and see it. So
I would love it. Thank you. Yes. And then my social media on Instagram, it's Renoly Santiago. On Twitter, it's The Real Renoly. And that's pretty much it. Follow me out there. Yes, I would love it. And you can keep updated with everything. I also have an autograph website that I should mention because we get a lot of cool requests, and that's a great way to interact and get autographs from me. And you send stuff for like posters, I can sign them, and I sign discs from like little floppy discs like hackers. And that site is called phantomfreak.com.
oh, yeah, I love it.
Yes, it's so fun. I have like a box of autographs and stuff I got to send out. Like that came today. Like they just keep. I was approached by this wonderful gentleman that does websites and creating things and all, and he pitched the idea, and I was like, why not? And it's been beautiful. It's the way that I did not expect so much interaction, and I thank you all. So yeah, phantomfreak.com. And then I also have one other, which is my t-shirt site. I have my own personal designs, and yeah, that you can also check out. It's RenolyNYC.com.
Okay.
RENOLYNYC.com. So those are my sites, and thank you so much.
And as always, guys, you can check us out at No More Late Fees on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And we just have to thank you so much for just spending this time with us. We loved every second of it.
Absolutely.
And you're always welcome back. If you have any more stories you want to come tell us, we're happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And be kind and rewind.